Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to also move towards the closure of the summit. And what we do have now is time for the closing keynote address, wherein we focus on India and the great powers. Ladies and gentlemen, the closing keynote address will be delivered by none other than Meenakashi Lekhi, Minister of State for External Affairs and Culture of India, Government of India. And ladies and gentlemen, while we do know that she comes with a prolific background, she's someone who's been spearheading the entire baton rather forward, because a lot of achievements also include having represented India in the court to get the ban on the media coverage of case proceedings in the Nirbhaya rape case revoked. She was also successful in the effort and has also played an active role in drafting the Criminal Law Amendment Bill 2013 that provided for amending the existing laws related to sexual violence. She also took up the case of permanent commissioning of women officers in the Indian Armed Forces, which has been my personal favorite, I must admit. And she was also the lawyer for the victim in the Shanti Mukund hospital rape case. Someone who's been an active individual in terms of advocating what is right, in terms of bringing that change, being that change for that matter. I think it's only befitting to grab all those notes and all those words from a dynamic personality such as Meenakshi Lekhi. So on that note, let's deep dive into our final closing keynote address from none other than Meenakshi Lekhi.
Namaskar, greetings to everyone. India is often referred as the mother of democracy. Our deep-rooted democratic ethos are ingrained in the conscience of Indian society for more than 2,500 years in our civilizational history, which has enabled India to naturally become the largest democracy in the world. Our diversity in languages, dialects, different lifestyles, cuisines make us the best example of a vibrant democracy. India is also a land which had stalwarts like Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji, father of Ekat Manavad, which means integral humanism, which is co-journey of development and expansion from self to collective. Expansion of the self moving from individual to the society, the nation, and in the entire humanity. And this contemplation is dedicated to Antyodaya, which in today's world means that no one should be left behind. This is our vision for the world, and this ideology mirrors our diplomatic stance. We are a nation which has paved its way in a multipolar world with its own philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which views the world as one family. We are, however, increasingly guided by bearings that arise from our own thinking, and there are three particularly strong strands in our thinking. The first is the tradition of middle path that arises from the teachings of Hinduism and Buddhism. India tends to avoid extreme strategic and political behavior. It is a force for moderation. From this arises the second strand of our thinking, the need for strategic autonomy or being Atmanirbhar. We believe that centers of power and gravity in the current international systems are diversifying, growing, and shifting. New players such as non-state actors and business interests have created entirely new diplomatic domains and are often more influential than many nation states. India's interests, like those of other players in such a fluid environment, will constantly shift. The comforts of belonging to a bloc or avoiding it are gone. In such an environment, we are guided by a third strand of thought, that of human-centric globalization. It is a globalization that is based on fairness, equality, and humanity, one that prioritizes people, planet, and our collective and sustainable prosperity. Many of you may wonder how would this work out in the emerging world with completely new realities that seems to be complex. These are the realities of conflicting interest, desire for dominance and power. It prompts a lot of thought stirring. Does this call for a revisit and rethink of our values and guiding principles, of what India has stood for since its birth as a nation and even before? We strongly believe that we don't need to water down our belief system, the ethos and value that lie at the heart of it. Definitely, these need to be complemented with new perspective but not replaced to meet the emerging realities. India, like all other economies of the world, seemingly has just emerged from a crippling pandemic. though we are still not clearly out of its clutches. However, India has managed to come out of the crisis with a silver lining. We are one of the fastest growing large economies of the world, and the course to become a $5 trillion economy by the year 26 is being worked at. India continues to play a pivotal role in the globalized world. We place our neighborhood first and we act east and have revitalized our approach to these policies. Connectivity projects are being implemented at an unprecedented pace in our neighborhood. Railway projects with Bangladesh, Nepal, Chabar, Sitwe ports in Iran and Myanmar, respectively. And inland water projects have created new transport corridors. The energy grids of India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar are linked. Power trade in our neighborhood has become a reality. At the same time, we do not neglect the realities of the multipolar world. India's relations with major powers such as US, EU, Russia, and Japan have attained comprehensive strategic levels while maintaining strategic autonomy. We also remain committed to multilateralists and believe that human-centric globalization must underlie the reform multilateralism that will inevitably arise in a post-pandemic world. Multilateralism and pluralism must complement and supplement each other and must be relevant to contemporary challenges. Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region, underpins our vision of the Indian Ocean region and the greater Indo-Pacific region. Our BIMSTEC and Indian Ocean region initiatives and exciting concepts such as Ganga-Mekong cooperation will bring us closer to ASEAN. India's northeast, which is being transformed by connectivity projects, will be a land bridge with ASEAN. It is also believed that the century is going to be shaped by what happens in the Indo-Pacific. It is the fastest growing region in the world, accounting for two-thirds of global economic growth over the past few years and home to half of world's population, as the word itself suggests Indo-Pacific. India shall play a greater role in this domain and shape the geopolitics of the region. I truly believe that the world should be driven by a shared vision of a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. We are keen to work together to further peace, stability, and economic prosperity in the Indo-Pacific through collective efforts which address contemporary issues. In this context, India continues to support our ASEAN partners in their efforts. Their centrality is important to be recognized and reiterated. We are also engaging with Quad in the Indo-Pacific region. The robust bilateral relations between the Quad countries, our strategic convergences, and our shared democratic values have all combined to make the Quad a vibrant and substantial framework. Through Quad, we are committed to build resilient supply chains, enhance availability of trusted critical technologies, counter disinformation, and uphold rules-based multilateral trading system that will contribute to fostering global economic resilience. The Quad's share desire to address common global threats such as terrorism, strengthened maritime domain awareness, provide timely humanitarian and disaster relief assistance, and assist countries in the Indo-Pacific in the area of cybersecurity shall shape the modern world. Taking forward the Quad's positive agenda, which our leaders endorsed last year, we will take steps to strengthen our existing people to people linkages through education programs and think tank dialogues. The Quad partners shall work together to give shape and substance to the Quad's positive agenda to make it, in the words of my Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a force for global good. In the post pandemic era, the world needs to think structurally and holistically, clearly defining the priorities for a cohesive, collaborative, and cooperative global agenda. More than ever before, we need partnerships and coalitions of countries willing to put their efforts, pool their resources in tackling problems of climate change, COVID-19, and other defining challenges of the modern world. India's traditions long stressed the importance of living in harmony with nature And today, India is amongst the front rank of nations with climate ambition. In absolute terms, India ranks within the top 5 globally when it comes to power generation from renewable sources. At Glasgow UNFCCC COP26, PM Modi has committed that India will increase its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030 and that India will achieve the target of net zero by 2070. This transition to a climate resilient economy will generate economic output and place the country on a sustainable growth path. These priorities are apparent in what may be described as next generation. Agreements that we have entered into, such as Green Strategic Partnership with Denmark, India's record in creating and establishing international organizations and establishing global partnerships to tackle common challenges of climate change are well known. We have established International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure with forward-looking agendas that speaks for itself. Today, the Solar Alliance has 102 countries as signatories and CDRI has 28 member countries. We have been using our partnership more for growth and ensuring peace and stability in our neighborhood and extended neighborhood through cooperative arrangements. We built coastal radar surveillance systems with Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Maldives, and Seychelles. We are also immersed in anti-piracy patrols, maritime coordinated patrol with Myanmar, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, joint patrols with France and EU NAFOR, and joint surveillance operations in Maldivian and Mauritius EEZ are activities that improve security in the Indian Ocean. Our assistance in upgrading the maritime hardware and software of partners is indicative of our priorities. India is also expanding its space-based capacities that enhance domain awareness and communication in the region. We are also actively expanding law enforcement cooperation through augmenting the number of extradition and mutual legal assistance agreements and counterterrorism and cybersecurity dialogues. The phrase that India is a net provider of security acquires substance in this context. We do value and seek more cooperation and engagements with all the global powers, enhancing connectivity and integrating India with Middle East, Central Asia, Latin America, and Africa remains our priority. In this context, I would like to quote Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's vision for India and the world, that is, when India grows, the world grows. When India reforms, the world transforms. As we celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, it is an opportunity to reflect upon the last 75 years of our journey as a nation. Perhaps the most discernible arc of India's transformation is its change from a beneficiary to a global leader of international development cooperation. Our emphasis on diplomacy for development flows from our principle of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Indian model of development cooperation is comprehensive and depends on the priorities of our partner countries with no conditions attached. According to a recent report released by Research and Information System for Developing Countries (RIS) from 1947 to 2022, the cumulative development assistance provided by India is around $107 billion. And in the process, we have trained around 350,000 individuals, implemented over 7,000 programs, and extended close to $31 billion lines of credit. During the COVID-19 pandemic, India supplied over 166 million made in India vaccine to 96 countries under Vaccine Maitri. Self-reliance or Atmanirbharta to a good extent happens to be a goal of our diplomatic ties and moves. The idea is to use our cohesive ties with our international partners to serve nations' economic interests and boost national development. Our flagship programs like Make in India, Digital India, Skill India, and Startup India are all oriented towards the economic growth, building favorable and enabling ecosystems for domestic production and foreign investment by offshore players. We have been very critically looking at major roadblocks and challenges to our foreign investors and trying to resolve them. Overall, India remains a peaceful nation with cordial relations with all the global partners. We threaten no one, use our power responsibly, and know how to guard our sovereignty and interests. I believe it is essential that we constantly strengthen the multilateral fora for the protection of global order, global laws, and global values. I would like to end in the words of Nobel laureate Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore, Shubho Karmo Pothe, Dharo Nirbhaya Yogan, Shono Drubo Shoy Ho Kubos Han. That is, move forward fearlessly on your auspicious path of action. May all weakness and doubts be eliminated. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.